Microsoft released their earnings today. Let's take a look at how Xbox performed. What's up everybody, Brad here, back again, and earlier today Microsoft dropped their earnings, and overall, honestly, it was a pretty solid quarter for them. 30 billion in revenue, a little over 8 billion in net income, and net income, by the way, is how much cash they have in the bank after paying all of their expenses. But what I'm going to do here is just focus in on Xbox, and if you want all the other data, there's going to be a link in the description to the full write-up, but we're going to focus on gaming here because I know that's what you guys tend to like, and so that's what we're going to stick with. So on the gaming side, gaming revenue grew 5%. Now keep in mind, all of this data is what's used as YOY, or year over year, which means from this quarter, which was Q1 of the calendar year, to Q1 of previous calendar year of 2018. Now technically speaking, this is Microsoft's fiscal year third quarter, but we'll talk in Q1 because it's a little bit easier if you think of things on calendar. So Q1 versus Q1, 5% gaming revenue growth, although that primarily came on software and services, not on hardware, which isn't all a surprise because the further you get away from the Xbox One X launch, there's going to be lower sales, although they are starting to drop the price things, although not on the all digital. But anyways, software and services growth, not so much hardware, which we'll talk about here in a second. Microsoft says Xbox software and services, specifically revenue, grew 12%. So of the 5% total growth, 12% of it came from their software and services. And Xbox Live monthly active users grew 7% to 63 million. They added about 4 million new Xbox Live users from the previous year, which was about 59 or so. So pretty solid growth on the Xbox Live, which is the thing that Microsoft wants to grow most because those are the stickiest customers, meaning that they stay around the longest. And actually speaking, Microsoft's always going to peak their Xbox Live user base in December, right around the holiday time. Not a big surprise. They had 64 million there, and they're reporting 63 million, which is actually less of a drop than they had in the previous year. So Microsoft's Xbox Live services doing quite well, and I would imagine that Game Pass, although it's not as big of a driver of revenue yet, is continuing to do well. So specifically here, gaming revenue in billions. So Microsoft made 2.3 billion in revenue this quarter. So if people say, nah, there's not a lot of money in gaming for Microsoft, that is false. They did 2.3 billion. Now to put it in perspective, the holiday season, they made 4.2. That drop off, not all that big surprising because, right, not as many people are buying consoles. Now, if you look at it year over year, the same quarter last year, they did 2.2 billion. So they've made at roughly, about $110 million more this quarter than they did in the previous year. So that is solid growth for Microsoft. Not too shabby, honestly. And so if you look into their financial postings online, it says gaming revenue increased 112 million or 5%, driven by Xbox software and services, growth of 12% primarily due to third-party title strength and subscription growth, offset by a decline in Xbox hardware of 33%, primarily due to a decrease in volume of consoles sold. That's exactly what I was saying. Fewer consoles sold, more software and services were sold, which for Microsoft might sound like a bad thing, but from a margin perspective, Microsoft makes a lot more money on software and services than they do hardware. So while yes, it is not as good that they sold fewer consoles, they are making that up, actually more than making it up in their software and revenue. So that means that customers that buy the product are sticking around for a long time and buying software and services, which is exactly what Microsoft's strength is. And they are going to carry this momentum, or at least try to carry this momentum into their next generation consoles with things like xCloud and all that good stuff. We know the story for the next generation. So in a nutshell, did Microsoft have a good quarter or bad quarter for gaming? Good. They were up $112 million over the previous year. That is not, I mean, that's a substantial amount of money. Granted, Microsoft made 8.8 billion in net income, so it's a small chunk of the overall revenue scheme. But at the same time, Phil Spencer's org made $112 million more than they did the previous year, which is really hard to shake a stick at and say, no, that's bad. So 63 million active Xbox Live users. We will watch these numbers. Typically, they're going to drop here as you head into the summer months. Not surprising. People are literally going outside and playing instead of playing Apex Legends like I do all day long. But overall, good quarter for Microsoft. We will see what they have up their sleeve for E3 and everything else coming up here in the not too distant future.